Oof, ba. Welcome everybody to episode 56 of Everything Teams Phone Live. We've got so much to catch up on. It's been a while since we've done this because we've had travel and show after show, two shows in a row, basically Florida, the CCA, CommsV next last week or this week, which is what we're going to focus on because we were inundated in Microsoft technology and Microsoft news and Microsoft opportunities. And it was just drinking from the fire hose analogy really applies in this scenario because, boy, it was amazing. It was a jam-packed 2 days at CommsV Next. And we've got more and more stuff to share with you based on that show. But we wanted to catch up with you today and walk you through some of the stuff that we learned. Brandon, welcome.
Yeah, happy to be here. Happy Friday, Rick. Seems like anymore we see each other more in the last call it year and a half than you and I have known each other like 20 years. And obviously we've crossed paths a lot over those 20 years. We've seen each other a lot in those 20 years. But this last year, as we've built out this, teams practice and we're full steam ahead on everything teams live on the show, man, we see each other a lot, and it's really fun to get to hang out with you more often than we used to hang out. So anyway,
lots of in-person events these days. The biggest thing here is that I think you and I worked together in the early 2000s, and then there was a gap there where we didn't work together, and then you came over to G12 and stuff, and now we're both here at Momentum. And what we're really doing, we're part of a larger organization in Momentum, in that we get an opportunity to go to lots of events, speak at lots of events, attend lots of events, learn lots of things. I mean, we're driving new teams opportunities for our partners, for our customers. And it's basically you and I vetting stuff out these days, right? And it's like we're digging in and we're asking all the questions and we're delivering on stuff. And it's really fun to feel like we're the spearhead of a lot of this stuff from a carrier perspective. And so it's fun to get to see you on a regular basis because we're at all the events. And obviously COVID's, the travel kind of, delay from COVID and stuff. Seems like it's all back these days, right? And you're in person. The shows are bigger. There's a lot of people, putting together big sort of shows and meetings and stuff. And it's fun to get out there and engage live. I feel like there's as much as you can get done behind a desk, I feel like there is a ton of value from meeting in person, and not just you and I, but meeting our vendors in person, meeting our partners in person, meeting our customers in person. There's a lot that you gain from that. Now, collaboration has enabled us to feel like we don't need to get out from behind our desk. And oftentimes in the last 10 years, I probably haven't. But it's nice to get out these days. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's a nice change of pace. And I think the other thing I'd say is this, especially like this last week where you're in a community-driven event where, obviously we've gotten to know quite a few people in the community. But, as an example, being able to meet people that would otherwise be hard to track down in the, say, Microsoft universe, right? Like I'll say universe versus community because I'm talking about maybe Microsoft employees where, as an example, Rick, this, we were sitting at our Momentum booth and a Microsoft guy walks up, introduces himself. He's in the health life science group within Microsoft. And we're like, oh, just out of nowhere, we have a huge conversation.
Let's show you something.
Yeah, we need to show you something. And that stuff doesn't happen sitting behind a desk, right? You wouldn't know, or I guess you could go try to find this person, but you wouldn't know who you're looking for. And the guy just happens to step in and we ended up having a, 25-minute conversation, really insightful conversation. And then those are the things that build the bridges that allow us to be even more connected inside the community when it comes to, learning and educating and moving that this modern era forward.
How about the guidance that he provided in our product development roadmap, right? There was some things that are important to him and the life sciences division, and you sit down and you show our facts to teams, I have to say that facts to teams product, and he's able to sit there and go, you know what would make this amazing if it could do this? And I'm like, well, it could do that, you know. And so getting real life product development roadmap ideas from people delivering on the service day in and day out. So it was pretty exciting. So let's do that. We'll pivot to that and talk about what CommsV Next is, what we experienced, what were some highlights and takeaways, because there's a lot of really cool things that I want to talk about. The fax application, the shared calling was a massive sort of discussion there. We chatted with the Loop guys. Shout out to the Loop guys. I know you guys are both here in Seattle, Kirkland and Seattle. Talk about the Loop solution, which was really cool to us, in this space from a collaboration perspective. Boy, so much more to talk about that we were able to pull out of CommsV Next. And I just what I'd like to do this show is just kind of highlight some of the things that we encountered and talk about some of the big topics. We held a panel. We hosted a panel. It was Can Teams Do That? And the esteemed panel included Adam Ball from Cloud Revolution, Tom Arbuthnot from Empowering Cloud, Kevin Keeler from Enable UC, and Jason Wade over at Microsoft. And so we had this panel of just social media sort of, I'll call them icons, social media, LinkedIn guys that are in the community, and they are sitting on our panel answering questions with us. Can Microsoft Teams do that? So that was really exciting. So let's just kind of knock through things. Brandon, give us the highlight. What is CommsV Next, and what did you find interesting? And we'll just go through the list.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to do it justice. So if Adam, Josh, or Patrick are listening, you guys can be the 10th caller and join if you guys want to join in and explain CommsV Next. But it's a once a year conference that's put together in a nonprofit fashion. So it's very volunteer community driven. It's not a big commercial event, and it's not your traditional, Rick, you like to call it speed dating event, right? It's not this. You're not coming to this event to be sold to necessarily. You're coming to this event to meet others in the community with kind of a like-minded focus in mind, where it's more of a technical community that's getting together to talk about what is coming in the industry, what are things you can do, what are the call it best tips and tricks and best practice methods, and just a very laid back, I'd call it almost like you go home for the holidays and you sit down at the family dinner table and you break bread together, and the idea of it's this very comfortable, familiar environment. Even though you've maybe never been there before, you get there and you just kind of feel at home in the industry, in the space. And there's no bad or wrong question you can ask. There's open minds and eager experts walking around this expo floor or around the conference convention center that they want to be there to answer your question, not out of ego. It's just, I think my perspective of the vision is, enabling the community to be better, all around.
It is. It's like an open platform for sharing. That's really what it is. We felt this the last time. Last year we did the same thing where we attended and we hosted an event. We didn't display. We weren't a sponsor in any way. But regardless, it was just an open platform of sharing, and everyone made you feel welcome. I walked away from that going, wow, that was amazing, right? Like we had an amazing dinner with a lot of people, and everybody was just open and shared, and it was fantastic. And then this year, having had one under our belt, it was the same thing. You see all the newcomers, you see all the new organizations that display, you see all the new people even from Microsoft that attended that didn't attend before. And you look at that and you go, man, this is so cool. And everybody just feels right at home. And you see lots of familiar faces in the community. Even customers come, cities, counties, universities, large corporations, large corporations. They attend, and you engage with them, and they're there just soaking it all up. We had good large organizations sitting in our discussion about, can teams do that? And questions would come from the audience about devices, about 911, about compatibility with things, and the panel would answer, and the organizations were there, the partners were there, and organizations were there. So it was really cool. Love Comes Next is, I think you nailed it. It's a great community event, and it allows everyone to just come in and share openly. There is no speed dating going on. There is no hardcore selling going on. It's really a place to go build relationships, and that's what I really enjoy the show. So let's talk about some of the big topics that were there. Shared calling was a massive topic there. Satish did a panel. Fantastic, Satish. If you're listening, that was an amazing panel. To listen to him get up and give a description of shared calling, walk through the things you can and cannot do with shared calling, and literally have an answer for every single question that came from the audience. That was granular in nature or broad in nature, and have an answer for everything. But wait a minute, let me show you why. And this is the way. And so having experts like that deliver a panel on shared calling was exciting. Obviously, me sitting in the panel, or not in the panel, but sitting in the audience there, you see all the enterprises asking questions all around you, and I kind of want to go into speed dating. We do it. Do we do it? Excuse me.
But what I'll say is, even us who, like my team, we're deep into the Microsoft Teams space a lot of times on behalf of our customer, right? We're managing the whole kind of Teams communication for the customer. We're building it out. We're configuring it. We're problem solving for the customer when they ask these same questions that the people are asking the panel at Comes vNext. But what's interesting is, even though we live and breathe it, because Microsoft is such a massive, I'll call it universe again, their solution is more flexible than I think anyone gives it credit. So I go to that same shared calling panel, and I'm listening, I'm hearing the questions, and I know in my mind how I solve it. But then Satish answers it, and I go, oh my goodness, that's actually another great way to solve the same problem that I thought I had the solution for. And I don't think that either solution is the wrong solution. It really comes down to the very granular, what are you specifically trying to do? And I don't know if you remember on our panel, Rick, when we were doing Can Teams Phone Do That, Adam kept saying, let me ask you a question. What are you actually trying to accomplish, before he would then answer? I think it was Adam that said that. It really boils down to, there's so many different ways to solve a problem, and depending on the specific need, you might solve it in a couple different ways, even with, say, shared calling. So that was a long-winded way of saying, even if you think you're an expert, you go to these communities where there's a whole bunch of experts, and you start to realize, oh, what I thought I knew about this maybe product set within Microsoft, I probably haven't even, tipped that iceberg and entered the water yet, because there's 5 other people that are as experienced or more experienced than I am, with other perspectives, because they've interacted with maybe other companies that have other needs that we haven't encountered yet.
Yep. No, I don't have anything to add to that. I think that was well put. But that's the value of showing up to a show and engaging with experts up and down every single session, the hallways, right? Having lunch with, and then ultimately having dinner with. Like we hosted the Everything Teams Phone Live Momentum celebrity dinner, and the people in the room, MVPs, Microsoft, senior folks from a collaboration perspective. You just get to share stories, technology, in different encounters with customers, problems that you're solving. Everyone is there. It's so cool because everyone is there to drive productivity, into organization. It's strange in a way to me that when you go to a show, there's like all these different sort of reasons to go to a show, right? This show seems to be really, really focused on, obviously, it's the Microsoft technology stack, but it's all in an effort to drive productivity into organizations. And if you use the team's technology stack, guaranteed you're probably leaving a ton of productivity on the table. A quick example, I don't know if you saw the new stats, 20 million PSTN subscribers now on Microsoft Teams Phone. 20 million. That is, the largest UCaaS provider in the world. Obviously, the platform is a favorite amongst organizations that use Microsoft because of the ability to go build automation, use the different components of the ecosystem, reporting, Power BI, Entra. You've got all the users already there. It's easy to turn solution up. So it's always fun to be a part of that and see how everyone is focused on driving additional value and driving productivity for businesses. So singularly focused. It's pretty dang cool to see everyone move in that direction.
I'm going to put you on the spot really quick, Rick, and I know we're live, but do you have and I'm not trying to turn this into our product offer, but do you have the momentum graphic that shows, it's the teams and it shows the ancillary stuff that we enable to make Teams this, powerhouse of a utility? And the reason I'm wondering if you have it is I wanted to kind of bring up and touch on what you were just talking about is, empowering this conference and this community, really focused on empowering those looking to enable teams to make it an even more robust collaboration platform. And that's kind of what our panel, what we spent our panel talking about. Wasn't, when we say, can Teams Phone do that? Everyone, I think, assumes that Teams Phone can do all the phone system stuff. But I think we tried to take a different approach of, the phone piece is now just a component of the bigger collaboration stack. And here's ways that you can enable things on that communication platform to make your phone system that much more robust and powerful and integrated into your business flow process.
So I don't have the graphic handy where basically you show Power BI and ACS, Azure Communication Services, and Power Automate and all those things. But in the recently sort of launched Momentum site, GoMomentum.com, you see the Teams Contact Center, the Teams Auto Attendant Console, the Teams Call Recording, the Teams Texting, Teams Faxing, Teams Analytics. You see all the sort of surrounding solutions that you build around a team sort of environment so that you can really kind of surround a customer's needs and engage a customer's customer for them or with them and help that organization sort of eke out all the productivity they can, right?
Yeah, and I think the thing there is, you saw as well as I did at Comms vNext that there was when you were listing those teams products, there was a session for almost all of those, right? Not necessarily our session, but there was different vendors in the room talking about those, problem solve solutions like attendant console, contact center, all these different things that, you've got your phone component, but then there's this ecosystem out there of ISVs, application developers that come in and they enhance the phone system experience. And when you think about some of, the Microsoft competitors in the phone system space, and I won't say any names, you can just imagine one is kind of like RC Cola, spelled similar. They don't necessarily have their own contact center, right? They might partner with an Avaya, a Nice inContact, not to name drop, but even the biggest of the biggest people from a phone system perspective are using strategic partnerships to bring their collaboration stack together. And so kind of the whole point in Microsoft world is there is going to be some of that going on as well. I think sometimes, there's some defensive people that go, well, teams can't do this, teams can't do that. And it's pretty simple to break it down, you know, by looking at the competitors and going, no, teams can do that. And I think when we ended our session at CommsV Next, you'd kind of wrapped it up, and I hit the punch with the panel before we end it. I'm going to ask the panel, can Teams Phone do it? And I think all 5 of them said absolutely, just to put words in their mouth. But they did say yes.
No, they did. They said yes. I mean, it's exactly what they did, because there is a way to do it, right? There is a way. If it may not handle the business scenario that you're talking about the way that you expected your Cisco to handle it, but it handles it in a different way, and it's because Teams is identity based versus sort of extension based, right? Let me show you something else here. Am I still sharing my screen? No, I'm not here. Let me share the screen real quick. I think this is what you were looking at. This is what you were thinking of, something like this, where you've got the greater ecosystem here, where you've got cognitive services, you've got the bot framework, and the bot framework is pretty cool, because now we're seeing things like the Copilot Studios, right? Where you've got, just some really cool things coming out of all these different platforms. So Power BI, Azure Communication Services, that's the ACS powers. Does it power the new click to call, Brandon? ACS, is it powering the new click to call that Microsoft just came out with? And that is underrated. I had a discussion about that on our panel, how that's probably going to be underrated and people aren't aware of how they can use it yet, but we'll change that. And then Power Automate. Power Automate is kind of like, connecting every application via APIs. If you want to screen pop for Salesforce on your call, Power Automate is going to do that for you automatically, right? And then obviously Azure is the underlying sort of ecosystem in general, right? So it brings it all together in an amazing way. And now you've got other things like Dynamics that's coming into this, right? Where you've got the ability to start to build a heavy-duty contact center in Dynamics. It's omni-channel now, and that you've got the virtual agent and the chatbots that you can pull together, right? Copilot's Copilot Studios used to be the virtual agent, but now the virtual agent has been injected with Copilot, and now you see this just amazing chat opportunity and engagement opportunity for your website. So all this stuff, just part of the ecosystem that Microsoft has, that gives you the ability to go deliver on an amazing platform, a communications platform, not even a phone system. Does it do the normal phone system stuff? Like backflips backwards or, blinded. You know what I mean, right? It does all your normal phone system stuff, but the real driver is integrating the ways that you communicate with your customer and your employee into an all-encompassing platform. And it takes partners to do it.
Yeah, and fun little tidbit there, Rick. Speaking of this whole ecosystem that allows you to enhance the core of Teams. Remember, Teams as the client is the user interface into the business, right? How they, I think we were calling it several episodes ago the new business operating system, and I think people in the industry have kind of picked up that terminology as well, where from an end user perspective, they don't care what's out behind it, right? They want to be able to work efficiently and with as little inconvenience as possible. So, kind of one of the things that I always keep in mind is, how do we, as a partner ecosystem, how do we create solutions that keep people inside of that business operating system, so to speak, the Teams client, while empowering them to be super efficient? So like your virtual bot that you talked about, we have demos where we bring it into chat flows where we can simulate a sales, or we can simulate a support flow where it's maybe someone calls in and says, hey, I need to know how to change my password. and maybe the support agent doesn't know off the top of their head. And a lot of organizations, they don't want to necessarily run a ticket into the system if they can solve it right on the spot. So one of the demos is you can take that virtual bot, you can open your Teams client, you can chat the bot, ask it, how do I reset my password on blah, 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 blah. It spits out the instructions that agent can then relay to the caller, done and done. Other things like click to call, maybe next week. Don't hold me to it. I know I'm saying this on a live stream. I was just on with my developer right before our podcast today. We have our click to call working. We're running through a few scenarios right now. So maybe next week we can demo that so that people can actually visually see what that experience looks like, where the idea is to turn your website into a front door that brings people in. And the example I used on our panel at CommsV Next was for that university sitting in the room. That imagine students are on your .edu website and they're looking at course catalogs, or they're trying to figure out what scholarships are available or how to apply for something. And imagine having a couple widgets where it's call us or chat with us, and now it's click to call, click to chat. And the person on the university side is sitting in their Teams client, and to them, it's just another message or a phone call in Teams. To the person on the website, they're never leaving that website page. And so there's none of this swivel chair stuff going on, where how many times have you had to find a phone number and swivel around to your phone to make that phone call?
So let's talk about this real quick. This is a really sort of click to call in Teams. Okay, this is a really important thing to understand, because I think there's an opportunity here for ISVs. Obviously, we've got our own development path, but there's a real opportunity here for us to build an engaging application or an engaging way for people to use their websites. I feel like websites are asynchronous and that they're just shoving stuff out. Here's the stuff on the website, right? Here's our here's our information, blah. Okay. And it's not really engaging, right? It's not a funnel really for a sales opportunity. It's not a support engagement tool for us to engage better support for customers. So typically websites aren't that way. But with click to call, you can now start to understand how you can engage customers in a different way. So click to call seems kind of basic, like, hey, it's been around a long time, no big deal. Let me just click to call you, right? No. Here's where the interesting thing sort of starts to take place. You can build widgets. Now, just so everybody knows what a widget is the little pop-up, okay? So chat with a live agent right now, and it's just a little silly little text thing, a text tab. Excuse me. A text tab is what people usually have, like some little tab, right? So think about that tab as a different image, right? As a different engaging, in a different location, not just at the bottom right-hand side, but if you think about browsing a website, and I go to a particular product or service on the website, I could have a very specific widget maybe come across as a little floaty or whatever. I just come across and go, hey, want to talk to this particular service expert in our company. Wait a minute. Just click this now, and you can have that quick call with them, but you can also escalate that to a video call. So the customer doesn't leave this panel right at the website. You as a back-end employee don't leave Teams the screen. What's important about that is there's an omni-channel movement happening, right? It's like, and there's two different ways to do it. Either web chat, right? Stay in a controlled environment, web chat, the contact center solutions out there, that sort of thing. Or do I go build a thing for WhatsApp, a thing for Facebook, a thing for all the different sort of modals of communication? I contend that the website is the best place to start, because you're going to look at a website, you're going to see the website, and do I want to go open Instagram to go call you on Instagram or call you on WhatsApp? This whole meet the customer or that, I get that concept, but I get my personal thought is if you build an engaging, ubiquitous way for anybody to connect to, it doesn't matter if they're on a WhatsApp or a Facebook, if they're going to go to your website to go look at your products. What time are you open? What are your hours of operation? They're going to Google the business to get to the place that they want to be, right? And so if you create that widget for them to engage and it stays right there, you don't need all the other modals of communication, the other locations, right, that are not ubiquitous. You've got one ubiquitous container, if you will, in the website and Teams, right? And I think the more engaging the widgets, the more exciting it becomes on the website and more interactive I become as a consumer.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
so I want to break down a couple things you just said because I think it's important to reiterate a really important thing you said that maybe has resonated, maybe has not resonated with people. But the idea of this click to call, when you think about a scenario where maybe I go to a bank website and I'm looking for a loan versus opening a new account. The whole concept of dynamic click to call, I think what you're saying is your website becomes the new IVR. There's no more navigating, press 1 for loan, press 2 for open a new account. It's I'm on the open a new account and you pop the dynamic click to call that puts me right into the call queue for that specific group that's responsible for handling that. Versus if I go to I want a loan, I want to apply for a loan and I click there to call, I'm going to the people responsible for the loan. The last piece, and I know, Rick, we're gonna wrap up because I think we've got a hard stop coming up, that I think
Yeah.
where it gets really interesting, right? So now you've simplified the customer's experience and their journey into the communication platform because you've essentially eliminated the IVR. They've gone through the IVR, they just haven't realized it. The next piece is the announcement that and the demonstration that Microsoft did at Comms vNext around the Qs app, the Teams Qs app, where now they're bringing this contact center light type functionality. It requires Teams Premium or will require Teams
Mhm.
Premium. But what it's going to allow is, real-time statistics. It's going to allow, post-call statistics around, where did that call originate? How did it traverse through? Where did it end up? What was the metrics on it? So that contact center type, call flows can be reported on, they can be analyzed, but on top of it will be coming the whisper, the barge, the supervise, the coach, and you couple that with things like click to call and you start to go, this is almost contact center. I would say reimagined. I mean, I know, again, like you said, it's not all earth shattering, but it's being reimagined in the sense that all of a sudden you're using a business collaboration platform for your business communication needs and your omni-channel contact center, call it customer experience platform. And then you start zooming out and talking about things like Loop, things like Dynamic 365. And at some point your eyes start to spin because you're like, how do I even get my head wrapped around all this? But it starts to, tell a really good story without going, how many different vendors do I got to go talk to get this same solution put together?
Well, that's why I mean that's why Microsoft is the leader in the in the Magic Quadrant, right? In Gartner's Magic Quadrant, they're the leader in terms of volume for PSTN subscribers. There, it's a platform that everyone's operating off of, email. So maybe 8 and 10 businesses are doing it. Maybe there's some Google customers out there that use Google Mail for their business and stuff like that. But ultimately, organizations out there that utilize Teams, the ecosystem is such a strong driver of why Teams Phone has really come out of, I'll say not come out of nowhere because there was OCS and those like, but it's really why Teams Phone now is the world leader in UCaaS. Shared calling, Brandon. I want to just I want to touch on it for like 1 or 2 minutes. Shared calling is pretty interesting because it is a way for organizations to enable 911 in mass. It's a way for organizations to enable a lot of users in mass. If you've got a single, let's explain this. I'll try to explain it really quickly, Brandon, and you can actually, you know what, you start explaining it, I'll share a picture. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, shared calling is, from a traditional phone system, I don't think it's anything new, but it's the idea of taking one phone number and allowing multiple users to sit behind that phone number for both inbound and outbound calling, where it's a shared calling experience. So on an inbound call, it's going to come in, and there's a couple different ways that can be solutioned, right? You can route it through to simul ring all those users. You could hunt through those users. But with Microsoft, you can even set up a dial by name so that if I am calling into a shared calling number, but I know that I want to talk to Rick Garcia, the shared calling feature in Microsoft can intercept that. I can say Rick Garcia, and instead of it blasting all the users around, hunting through or someone else answering and having to transfer to you, I can get it to be routed directly to you. And then on the outbound, it's sharing that number from an outbound caller ID, presentation perspective. And then, of course, like you said, 911 then gets enabled, RABOM compliant, carry law compliant, that in the United States, I should say, gives you all of the compliance that your business requires.
Yep. Okay. Well, there you go. That's shared calling in a nutshell. I mean, both inbound and outbound calls, like Brandon said, one number behind. You got I think that 10,000 users, you could sit behind one of the a group. So it's pretty amazing how swiftly we can go out there and enable users that are on legacy PSTN or legacy systems, and enable them to have outbound calling so that they can start to engage with Teams and use Teams as their phone system, and then ultimately migrate into a full-on Teams phone system for both inbound and outbound calling, and leverage it internally at their core. So I'll leave you with this, Brandon. I'm going to share another screen here, and this is going to be pretty incriminating, but I'm going to share it anyway. Let me stop that screen share. Let me share this screen.
Am I supposed to be nervous about this? I'm suddenly like,
you might be nervous about this. This is pretty incriminating stuff.
Is this paparazzi?
This is the paparazzi look, they were all around us trying to get pictures of us all. And so what's interesting is these are all probably very well-known individuals in the Microsoft ecosystem. So it was exciting to treat them and sponsor and host the MVP Microsoft Celebrity Night Dinner by Momentum. And there's Caruana. It was an amazing event. We had so much fun, and these are just some cool pictures that we'll end up posting. We'll end up posting these a little later. We've got fodder for a year here.
And can you scroll up for a second? I know we're running out of time, but I want to make a big shout out. Just pause anywhere on this. I don't care where. You notice that backdrop. So we had a bit of an issue that arose at the event, right? That was our booth backdrop. That was, by the way, big shout out to the marketing team that came up with that design. We got a bajillion comments on how cool it was. But we were supposed to have a different backdrop for our photos, and there was, I don't know, some shipping mishap or something happened where we didn't get it. So we ended up ripping our booth apart to get this up for the backdrop. And I have to say, again, big shout out to marketing for a fantastic design, because it made a great backdrop for even the paparazzi.
It did. It was fantastic. It looked great. Okay, well, that's let me stop the screen share there. That was pretty awesome. I think there's a lot of amazing pictures that we're going to share on social media as we kind of select them and decide who to request favors from before we do or do not share the photo. So we'll see how that goes. But it's exciting, and I think that's all we've got for today. There's so much to talk about. And it's like we've got the organized sort of shows. This one was just, let's just get out here and talk. We've got a pre-recorded show that we did at the event, and that's episode 57, and that is Can Teams Phone Do That? And that's the real live sort of session that we had. So it doubled as a panel and a session. So we'll be sharing that with you next week. Maybe comment on it.
and we've got the other. We tried to do a live podcast while we were there, right? The Eric Marcy had his podcast booth there. Was kind enough to give us a time slot to get in there and do our podcast, and then we no sooner do we get started, and the whole hotel loses internet, so our live stream was gone. But he had recorded it, so I think there's opportunity for us to get that content out there. We had Jason Waite from Microsoft on that show, talked about some really good stuff there. Yeah, and then like you said, our panel, which should also become one of the episodes for this. Lots of stuff. The thing I'll leave the listeners is if you have not been to CommsV Next, I highly recommend you kind of mark your calendar for April timeframe of next year and plan on coming to CommsV Next. It's well worth your time. I know we had some new Momentum members join us from our Momentum family, and I think they all walked away with kind of the same comment of, holy,
Wow.
this was so beneficial. So mark it down on your calendars. I don't know the dates yet. Obviously, we'll have to get those dates from our friends over at CommsV Next, but mark your calendar for April next year and plan to be there.
Yeah, same show in London is Commsverse. So we'll be at Commsverse in London, June 24th or 5th or something like that. So, okay, that's the episode. That's the wrap. That's episode 56, Everything Teams Phone Live. Thanks for jumping on. We didn't invite a whole bunch of people to this one. We just wanted to put it out there. So thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. And we'll catch you again next Friday. See you, everyone.